when women are living morally, the truth does not get them mad, be it the truth of their past, does not get them mad. Recently I had to get rid of a young lady. I asked her because I know she was just like kind of like pop in and out of my life and just come back with like different levels of seriousness. Like, no, I'm ready to do this. And I said, hey, clearly there has to be some other guy that you're dealing with. Like, what's his name? Who is he? Because, and the reason I had to have the conversation with her at this time as a serious conversation is because she was aging. She had sent me a photo of herself. Now, mind you, beautiful women are so vain that they'll just be out somewhere and they'll figure like, oh, I look really good. And they'll take a photo of themselves and then send it to you. And I like female beauty probably as much as anyone else, but I'm a busy person. Every time I just like, why are you just sending me photos of your face? Just like randomly. Like I think it's very strange and narcissistic. And so anyway, she did this, and I looked at her face this time, and I was like, "Oh, like you're getting some crow's feet, and you got a fine line here." And I was like, "You're moving out of the age range where you are good for procreating." So then I said to her, I said, "Hey, you're aging. Just now I don't recommend anybody talk to women like this. It's not going to go well." But I said, "Hey, you're aging, and you keep going in and out of my life, so you're kind of reaching the end. So who's the other guy that you're dealing with when you're not coming at me?" And she just, I'm not dealing with, I'm not, it doesn't matter. And why are you jealous? What? That's insane. I've never been felt jealousy or been called jealous my entire life. I just want to know, like, you must be bouncing back and forth. And I'm telling you now that your age is too high to where you don't have any time left. And when I tell you, this woman got pissed when I actually asked her to tell me the truth. I said, who is this guy? The last thing she said, I said, hey, look, I just want to let you know, I'm going to delete your number. I'm going to block your number, not out of anger, but just because I don't want you to try to bounce into my life, because my life is filled with good things and good women. And, frankly, you're not serious, and I don't deal with loose relationships with women. You're not serious, and you're too old to not be serious, and you're going out of the age range where I can have kids with you. So there's nothing we can have here. There's no romance. There's no sex. There's no friendship. There's no utility here. I don't need harlots around me. I didn't say this, but this was the sentiment. And then she finally wants to attempt the truth, and she says, "The last guy I was with, the last guy I was dating, I didn't sleep with." It's like, that's not what I asked you, but it's like, the last guy I was dating, I didn't sleep with. Now, do I believe that? No, I don't believe that. Because if the truth was simple, and the truth was moral, you would have come right out with it. You wouldn't have clawed and concealed and got angry and insulted. And so I think that you're right, that it's such a clear indicator. If a woman gets mad at the truth, she's not moral.
Exactly. And I think shaming the men because a woman has trouble accepting her social prime and biological prime are not the same. Wow. And the ratio reverses that, and the ratio is opposite for us as men. So they need to understand that. And some of them have a very hard time. Now, don't get me wrong, some women look younger for a longer period of time, but you're not beating biology. You still got to about 35 max to like have a perfectly healthy child. And yes, there's one-off instances here and there. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But just like how a man wants 0 as a body count, you want a younger adult female to have the healthiest child you can. And as they get older, the women get angrier, I have noticed. The single ones, anyway.
The single ones, that is. The ones who are childless and manless. Yes, they tend to be unhappy. There's a way you phrase it at the beginning. Now, obviously, I can replay this, or maybe someone watching can. But you said it beautifully. You said did you say their biological and their social? How did you put that?
A social prime versus a biological prime, and I view it as a social prime is like what social media has constructed for a woman, where they think their prime is 50, 60. It has no limit. The sky is the limit for their social prime. Right. Biological reality for their prime is going to be 30, 35. Mm-hmm. That's so. And for us, it's different as men. So our social prime, when we're younger, we're trying to get money and figure things out, impress the women, get educated, start businesses. And no women want us when we're building. They want you later after your social prime has went up. But unfortunately for them, for us, our social prime and our biological prime kind of stay even as we go older. Theirs ratio gets like a bigger gap, and ours get closer.
Yes.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'd call it prime for the woman in the sense that everyone might understand the term prime, but I would say she's reaching the sunset of her marketability at 35. Like that's definitely the sunset. Like me, she's already a decade, like more than a decade past for me. And that's one of the things when I'm dealing with women that it's almost something that you don't want to say out loud, but you wonder if they're noticing. It's like if I meet a woman and she'll say, well, how old are you? And I'll say, I'm this age. And these are usually women that are approaching me, right? Like old, because women, as they get older, they get desperate. And so they're aggressively approaching you. And they'll say, oh, well, how old are you? And I'll say, I'm this age. How old are you? And she'll say, oh, I'm this age. And she's like maybe a couple years younger. And she's like, oh, okay. And then she like, in her mind, it's okay because she's a couple years younger. Because sometimes they look at me and they can't tell my actual age and they think maybe they're older. And so they find out like, oh, I'm a couple years younger. And then they think that they have a chance. And in my head, I'm like, you're still a decade out of like, you're still 10 whole years older than I actually would deal with in real life. And they have trouble addressing the fact that man years and woman years are radically different, especially when you consider the impact of the kind of baggage that a woman has, emotional scarring, crazed exes, and just all of these things that tend to hinder them just a bit more than it would hinder a man of the same age. And also, I have an ex who, very sweet woman, but she was more of a careerist than I realized. I thought she was more traditional. She's a Midwestern girl, but tend to be like I figured out like, wow, this woman's really about her career. She kept out of her mouth saying she's not, but all the evidence turned out that she was. And I was looking at her face over time and I was like, wow, like whereas my face stayed pretty much the same. Like all of a sudden the crow's feet are coming in, the fine lines. I was just like, you aged a lot faster than I did to where like we don't even look good together. And I can just imagine this 20 years down the line, you're going to look older than I am, even though you're not.
Exactly. And unfortunately, them starting the injections in their face with Botox and stuff younger is making them look older than they are. Because I'm surprised sometimes I'll think a woman is in her 30s or 40s and she says she's in her 20s. And I was like, and you're shocked because they don't understand what Botox is. It's botulism. A lot of women don't understand that's what it is. And what you're doing at a cellular level is hindering the communication between the cells. So it has little, long story short, to make the calcium go through to help a gradient for these cells to communicate. It has to have these little hooks that grab this vesicle, which is a little ball of calcium, spreads it apart and lets it go through so the muscles and things can talk. But they're the snare proteins. What happens when you have this botulism, it destroys those. So then you get a buildup of botulism and then you see all the people and they can't move their face and they don't understand. And now I just found more research being done that is traveling to their brain. And they believe that's why they're having so many cognitive dissonance and issues. And so it's starting to make a lot of sense why we're seeing a rapid decline. Because I almost don't know any women who don't get Botox. And I tell all the women I love to don't ever get it. But then you have nurses who will have parties with it.
Yeah. Oh, do you ever start to just almost just want to break down and cry? Like is the tragic nature, like the direction that the world is moving in and just how tragic it is? Does it ever just make you sad? Like I sometimes just get sad just looking out at the stupidity, at the low ways of living. And just the idea that a woman will go under the knife, like surgery, to have a bigger butt, not realizing like surgery used to be something that you were scared of. It used to be something you only did when you had to, and it was done to repair something critical, not for fun. It's not for funsies.
Yeah, the body dysmorphia issue in this country is very serious. You'll see, everybody has an example. You'll see some beautiful woman who want to go get all these things done. You're like, you're fine. And then after, they look like some of these celebrities. Yeah, they look, or a transvestite. And It's not a good look. Or when I watched a video where they asked like 100 men, do you prefer natural women or BBLs? I'll say natural women. They do that for their own, what they believe, we believe they should look like. And none of us like that. I don't know any men who prefer a BBL to a natural woman.
And that's even black guys included too. So I know your white people are probably in the comments like, nah, you white, you don't like big booties anyways. But but as black guys included, it looks disgusting. They never match the girl's legs. You know it's fake. It's just a disturbing trend. And I think that the guys who actually, the very small, minuscule proportion of guys who do actually find a BBL to be attractive, these are the same guys that would also find a transgender to be attractive, because you're essentially attracted to man-made body parts.
Yes, and we're going to be making some more videos on gender dysphoria as well, on how that is affecting this situation, because now there are men who are trying to get uteruses implanted in them so they can have abortions. Some countries would
Not
call
have
that
kids,
evil.
but have abortions.
That she or he, I don't know,
Crazy.
but wants to be the first trans female to abort a baby. So those are the goals of America now. It used to be, let's be astronauts, let's be doctors. And now we want to be YouTube stars and OnlyFans models, if you can call them models. I personally disagree with the model term.
That's wild, indeed. I mean, you ever heard of the World's Fair? I think it's before our time.
The World's Fair, where they had like the incubator babies and the cool infrastructure. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as I understood it, the World's Fair would be an annual thing that might be hosted in like a superpower country, and they show like the latest in technology. I think there's a World's Fair in the Soviet Union, and that's when they had introduced Coca-Cola to the Russians. And I remember looking at the Russians, and they were holding like this glass of black chemicals, and it was like bubbling up, and they were like shocked. And I thought it was a fascinating show, and I'm pro-capitalist, but a fascinating show of how unnatural things are received by people who are used to natural things, like normal humans. Like, we're damn near cyborgs, right? Growing up on Cheez-Its and all these processed foods and Oreos. And it showed like a normal, natural Russian person, like a peasant, and they're holding this Coca-Cola and it's bubbling up. And I have to think that in their head, there's no prior content structure where they can relate this to something they've seen. Like, it's not like orange juice. It's not the color of, lemonade. It's not like any natural juice or water that they've ever seen. And it's bubbling up, like having chemical reactions. And you could see in their face that they thought it was bizarre. And I thought it was quite fascinating that we grow up on this filth. And so it never once struck us as bizarre. It was as normal as orange juice and water itself. And we were just enculturated into something that's filthy and not nourishing and ultimately detrimental.
Yes, the food processing industry here has unfortunately got a major hold on the way that children develop here, because that critical stage for brain development for the first 10 years, they're very susceptible. Everything they eat, everything they hear, every subconscious sound, anything that interacts with them is going to shape them permanently for the rest of their life. Mm-hmm. It's very hard. That's why it's very easy for a child under 10 to learn a new language. When you're 20, 30 years old, it gets a little harder.
Mm-hmm.